Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to welcome you out to this show tonight.
I apologize in advance if I am out of line here.
I like it.
And you wanna know what? I dig it.
Hold up.
You know you're my favorite white boy, right?
Huh. Huh. Huh.
Let's have a show.
Huh. Huh. Huh.
Oh yeah, what is going on, everybody? Back in the studio, it's your boy Lee Carolina. Whew. It's that time of year again. Probably my favorite time of the year. I'm like a pig in its own poop, for a better term of the word. Real quickly, I want to go over some of the conference tournaments, some of the results that happened, and really, I'm kind of wondering, do you think the top teams really care about this? We saw Calipari come out and say that he doesn't really care about the conference tournament. He wants to improve his seed or keep his seed where it's at. And I look at North Carolina and Kentucky as two good examples of this. I think the regular season means a lot more to these guys because that's a body of work over 2 months' time. To win a regular season title in the conference is really, I think, the ultimate goal of each team, and not what happens over the span of a 2-3 day round, single elimination tournament. North Carolina, I thought they were smart in benching Henson. The national tournament is what counts. Get him healthy. I know if it was today, I don't think he would be able to play, but I thought they made the right decision in benching him. Kentucky, they didn't really care. We knew that coming in, and they still made it to the final. So anyway, let's jump into this national tournament. I had 5 quick questions and takeaways, I guess you could say, when I saw the brackets come out. First off, I think for number 1 seeds, the 8-9 matchups are always the most dangerous for number 1 seeds. If we look at who each team potentially could play, I think, because usually the 8 or 9 seeds are those power conference teams that didn't live up to the expectations they had during the year, so that the selection committee puts them as an 8 or 9. We go around to Kentucky. I think their most dangerous matchup in that entire bracket is going to be UConn in the second round if they can get past Iowa State. Why? Because UConn was a top 10 team coming in. I had them as one of my Final Four picks halfway through the season. They are big enough to match up with Kentucky. They have enough scores. They have a go-to player in Lamb, and I think if Napier plays right, I think he can outplay Teague at the point guard position. So I think that's a scary game at the 8-9 spot. If you go down to Michigan State, they could possibly play a Memphis team who's athletic and rugged and matches into Michigan State style, and you never know what can happen. We go up, we know what's going on with Syracuse, and losing Fab Mel, I think, is a crucial blow to them. They could possibly play a Kansas State team who hits the boards hard. And now Syracuse is last in Division I basketball. All in Division I, not just major conferences, last in D1 in rebounding margin. So I think I think they're good enough to get past there possibly, but that's a dangerous match. And if you look at North Carolina, Alabama at one point during this year, early on in the season, was a top 15, top 10, teetering on the edge of a top 10 team. They're athletic, they're physical, and that's something that North Carolina always had a problem with. We saw them lose twice to a team like Florida State. So I think that was the first thing, is when I saw the draws come out, I was happy that North Carolina didn't get into the same bracket as UConn, because I thought that was a real dangerous matchup. My next takeaway, number 2, is how does Florida get a number 7 seed? I wasn't disappointed with the teams that got in or the teams that didn't get in. I just wonder how a top 20 team gets a number 7. If I do the math correctly, there's 4 regions. If they're the best of the 7 seeds, they're the 28th best team in the country. I think they got a little unlucky with that, just because they're going to have a huge matchup with Missouri possibly in the second round. I think that's going to be one of the better matchups of the tournament if it does happen. It's going to be very interesting to see, but I was kind of upset that Florida got a 7 seed. And there were some other teams with the seeding that I was kind of confused about, how West Virginia got a 10, NC State with an 11, how Gonzaga has to travel all the way across country as a higher seed and play 100 miles away from West Virginia, who's a 10 seed. The third thing I touched on earlier, Kentucky versus UConn, could be a huge matchup problem. I remember, I believe it was about 3 years ago, when Kansas was the overall number 1 favorite. Everyone was picking them to win the bracket. I picked them to win the bracket, and they lost in the second round to Northern Iowa. I think this Kentucky team is better than that Kansas team, and I think this UConn team is a lot better than that Northern Iowa team. I think it's going to be a huge matchup problem. I'm kind of excited. Hopefully, I'm rooting for UConn for the first time in a long time to get past Iowa State so I can see that matchup. The next thing is I'm looking at the brackets. 4 and 5 kind of touched with each other. North Carolina got the luckiest. I think they got lucky with the easiest draw. But that also puts a lot of pressure on them to make the Final Four, and I don't know if I like that. I think if you look at the top half of that bracket for North Carolina, before the Elite Eight, where they could possibly meet Kansas, I think it's the easiest out of all the other teams. Everyone was saying Kentucky, but like I said, you have UConn in that second round, which is a tough matchup. Possibly Baylor, possibly a dangerous Wichita State team, and of course Duke. Duke can shoot the ball, and that's always dangerous when you get to the tournament, which brings me to my fifth takeaway. Duke got a really bad draw because what they've been known, teams that have been known to be able to beat them are very athletic teams. That's where they run into a problem. They ran into a problem with Derek Williams last year, and I think they got stuck in a region with two of the most athletic teams in the country, in Kentucky and Baylor. Baylor is hot and cold. At the beginning of the season, they were undefeated, a top 3 team. They've kind of dropped off since then, but they're very tall, they're very athletic, and they attack the rim. And if Ryan Kelly doesn't come back, he's another injury problem because I talk a lot of junk on him, but he brings depth to their front court, and I think that could be a major, major problem for him. Let's look at some of the possible upsets that I have here before I get into some of my picks. A lot of people are talking about Belmont over Georgetown. I heard on the radio today that Belmont, they can shoot the 3. Well, if you look at Georgetown's defense, I think they were top 5 in the country in 3-point field goal percentage against. So I think Georgetown is a safe pick there. Everyone's loving Belmont because they almost beat Duke a few years ago. This and that. I like Georgetown still in that matchup. A lot of people are saying Ohio over Michigan. I don't like this one at all. I think people sometimes just look for upsets. Another one that everyone's been talking about is, can Detroit actually beat Kansas? They have Ray McCallum, the coach's son, was a McDonald's All-American, had offers from Kentucky, UCLA, Pittsburgh, big D1 programs. He's decided to stay home. They do have someone to match up with Thomas Robinson. I think Kansas is a well-rounded team that they're not going to lose to a 15 seed. And the next one is St. Bonnie's over Florida State. Everyone is riding the Florida State bandwagon, and I'm right there with you. But what people forget is that when they beat Duke earlier this season, they then turned around and lost to Boston College. They lost by 20 to Clemson. They've lost to Harvard. They lost to Princeton. It's a Florida State team that I haven't been able to figure out. Apparently, when they play North Carolina, they shoot 65%, and Dulkes is an NBA player. So if they can bring that same intensity that they had in the ACC tournament, they're a Final Four team. I always said from the beginning of the season, Florida State had the defense of a national championship, but they had the offense of an AAU tournament, high school tournament. So I think Florida State will have an interesting matchup with Ohio State, but I wouldn't overlook St. Bonaventure just yet. All right, so let's go into some of my picks. I'm going to start at the Sweet 16 because if you're looking to win your bracket, as long as you don't lose any of your Sweet 16 or Elite 8 teams in the first day, then you should be all right points-wise in keeping up towards the top, towards the end. So we're going to start. I have Kentucky playing Wichita State in the first Sweet 16 matchup. I have Kentucky winning that one. I think they will get by UConn. I just wouldn't feel comfortable as a Kentucky fan if that was my second-round matchup. And then in the other region, I have Baylor and Duke. I have Baylor going over Duke. I just think the athleticism and the question of Ryan Kelly hurts their depth, and their defense hasn't been usually what Duke's defense is during the year. Then I have Michigan State versus New Mexico. New Mexico has been a sneaky team. Not a lot of people have seen them because they play out in the West. They've beaten some quality teams, and I think that they're going to get past Louisville to play Michigan State. I just think Michigan State is a well-rounded team, and Izzo comes the coach in March. So I think Michigan State does beat New Mexico. Then I have Marquette versus Missouri. I struggled with the Missouri pick because I wasn't sure if they were going to be able to get past Florida. Florida was one of my other Final Four teams early on in the season, but I do think they shoot the ball well enough, and their four-guard set's going to cause a problem. Very similar to what Marquette does. I just think Mizzou is better, so I have Missouri winning. In the other region, I do have Syracuse getting past Kansas State, taking on Vanderbilt. I think this is where Syracuse ends out. I think Vanderbilt will be able to shoot outside the zone, and they'll be able to rebound better than Syracuse and go there. And then I have Florida State, Ohio State. The only reason I am taking Ohio State is because I think the defense of Ohio State can match Florida State's defense, and that causes problems for them, and I think Sullinger will be the difference, and I think Ohio State advances there. I have North Carolina, obviously, playing Michigan. A lot of people have Michigan went out in the first round. I have North Carolina handling Michigan. They're just too much talent there. And then I have North Carolina State. I was really impressed with them in the ACC tournament. I have them playing Kansas. Kansas winning, but I do like North Carolina State to kind of, as an 11 seed, go 2 rounds through. Then I have Kentucky over Baylor. I like Missouri. Missouri is my Final Four team there. I like them over Michigan State. I think there's too much offense. I like Ohio State over Vanderbilt, and I like North Carolina over Kansas. Then we're going to the Final Four. I like North Carolina over Vanderbilt. I think they will be able to defend, and they're going to have enough offense to get past Ohio State. And then I actually have Missouri over Kentucky. I think this is where the sporadic offense of Kentucky will finally hit a halt, because their athleticism at times on defense has kept them in games. I think Missouri is too good on offense to they'll build a good enough lead to where they won't let Kentucky get back. And then in the final, I have, of course, North Carolina taking home the title over Missouri. Roy Williams gets back up there. Harrison Barnes goes out in a blaze of glory as he goes to the NBA, and it will be a perfect end to the season. So that will do it for this week's podcast. Check me out on Twitter. The Twitter handle is Inglis40. On Facebook, you can hit me up, Lee Carolina. Make sure you give me some junk for about these picks. I'm pretty sure they're gonna look pretty good in the end. But if you guys have something different to say or want to join in get a call in and talk next week as these games progress, let me know. So this has been the Live Laugh Sports podcast for Lee. Catch you guys next week. Later.